Awesome. So I think this is the longest time I've been out of the office in like 2.5 years. It's been a long time. And I had this experience over the last week and a half that is Tony Robbins talks about. He says the ultimate goal is for you to leave this place and have life never be the same. And I really feel like that has occurred for me. And I've been on this self-development journey for probably, 8-9 years now. And I've shared this in the past where I've always had a goal where I will invest 10% of my income every year into personal development. And this year it's definitely increased a little bit, but it's been cool to, over the years, Jenny, who was in boot camp earlier today. So Jenny Locke, those of you who met her, that relationship stemmed from my commitment towards my personal journey of self-development. And so I've consistently gone back to these groups mainly for the networking. The people that I'm surrounded by, I always want to feel like very uncomfortable in the room that I'm sitting in because of the accomplishments of other people. And so I crave putting myself in that circumstance because it's so uncomfortable, but I get so much out of it. And I'm going to share with you guys some of the top takeaways that I took from this week. And I'll tell you up front, I'm only going to get through maybe a few different handfuls of principles. This was a 7-day deep dive experience. And so can't share 7 days in 30 minutes, but I'll do my best to give you guys some of the highest and best use items that you can take from this. So this was an event. Tony only does this every 2 years. Who's familiar with Tony Robbins? Familiar with that name? Okay, awesome. So I went to his UPW event about 6 years ago, Unleash the Power Within, and it was in New Jersey. And before then, I'd studied his content. I watched a lot of his YouTube videos to study sales, understand persuasion, and I used a lot of that in my door-to-door industry at the time. And really became a fan of some of the ideas and belief systems that he had. And he has this specific event that he only does every 2 years, and it's called Love and Passion. And it's really about developing deep and meaningful relationships. And I know here at KW, we haven't talked about this quite a lot as far as on your family side and your relationship, your marriage. We've talked about developing relationships with your clients, but I think that the most important thing that we talk about here at KW is a life by design, right? Not having a life by default. And really, if you look at, we have a wall upstairs, it talks about our core belief system and some of the things that are important to us are mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. And one of the focuses, it says God, and then what's the next one? Family, and then business. It's in that order, right? For a specific reason. And so this is really more about the family dynamic and about your relationship with your loved ones, whoever that is. And also there is a tie-in to how do you actually bring this back to your business as well? How do you build relationships, friendships that last forever? And so please take some of the things that I share and make it multi-contextual. Okay, make sure that you're applying this to your business as well as your life. And the reality is that if you're not happy at home, what's going to be the common energy in your business? Not good either, right? Dissatisfaction. And so a lot of this, the reality is your business will grow to the extent that your relationship does. And so we'll dive into a few of these things, but the first thing I actually want to highlight is the experience that Tony kind of cultivated. So this was our first day we get there. Now, many of you know I like to negotiate. One of the things I like to negotiate when I go to a hotel is an upgraded room, right? It's kind of a game I play. Let's see if we can get an upgrade. And so has anybody been to the Grand Wailea Hotel? Okay. So a beautiful property in Maui, 5-star resort. And I go up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to work my magic. I'm going to negotiate for this ocean view. And I was like, yeah, I would love to get an ocean view. And I'm going through the process. And she's like, oh, sir. She's like, Tony Robbins has already requested upgrades for everybody. Okay. And again, I'm going to just pinpoint some of these experiences. And I want you to think about how can you do this in your business where your clients receive value from you in ways that they don't actually expect. It's not something they expected from you up front. So that was my first, right when we showed up to the hotel, he's already trying to enhance the experience that we receive, right? So we have this beautiful view of the ocean. They have a chapel right out front, and just a cool little garden, which Julie loves flowers. That's her thing. So she really appreciated that. And they kick off, we go and get registered. And the first thing that they do with when we're getting registered is they say, okay, what time would you like to do your helicopter tour? That's another thing we were not planning or anticipating. And so we pick a time, and they're like, okay, you're going to go to the welcome dinner. And we go to this kind of party that they're having first night. And I don't know how, but he's got some mermaids there, right? Which Julie thought was awesome. She loved that little touch. And they just have a cool experience with live music, and we're able to, they just say, go, find people to connect with. And so we're able to meet new people from all over the world, from Australia and UK, Dubai, from all over the country, and people who have created radical results in their business, which is cool. But also they're here for a specific focus of their relationship, right, with their spouse or their significant other. And so it was really cool to just meet people and connect and kick off this week. And again, think about the touch points. You hit the mouse for me, in your life that you want to purposely stage for your clients. But I also want you to think about this, and I'll talk about this in a moment, for your relationship with your spouse or your significant other. So had an awesome tour of one of the islands across the way from Maui, and did this helicopter tour on day 3. And I didn't realize it in the moment, but Tony, one of the principles he talked about is how in relationships, one thing that we do very early on, and it kind of dies out over time, is we tend to market. Okay. We tend to market ourselves, but we also tend to innovate. So the two things that he pointed out. We do really good at marketing when we're in a dating phase. Okay. Who knows what I'm talking about? Right? Or when you're first married. And he talks about how oftentimes that marketing dies off, or the innovation in a relationship dies off, right? Who gets into the same routine of, we go every Friday night, we're going to go to a movie, or we're going to go do this. And it's kind of the same thing over and over again. And one of the things that we'll dive into is, when it comes to human needs, we actually need uncertainty. We need things to change. We need things to adapt. And so making sure that you're building that into your relationship, where it's like, what are we going to do differently? I know somebody posted in our Facebook group maybe last year, where one of their goals was to do a different date that they hadn't done before for every week of the year. And so they had like 52 different dates that every week was different. Okay. And so think about that innovation in a relationship. You do that in your business, right? You're looking to market consistently. You're looking to innovate consistently. So why do we not then do it in our relationship as well, right? So again, a lot of these experiences that Tony was staging he was showing us what that actually looks like. Like, go do something exhilarating. Go do something out of the norm for your relationship. One of those, of course, we know that Maui was devastated recently by fires, and they brought in an organization, which was really cool for us to be able to serve and give back. And there's multiple ways we could do that, either through going and helping with the food bank, to package meals for all the families that have been disrupted from this. And then another group of us, which Julie and I went and did this, is we were able to go and help clean up some of the homes that had actually been devastated. And for this specific location, it's in Kula is what it's called. And there were, this is a little tough. There was 3 people that were there helping. It was an older gentleman. He's probably 75 to 80 years old. There was an older lady, all 3 separate people. That the older gentleman, his house did not burn down, but the older lady's house did. It was his neighbor. And then a younger gentleman who he was a tenant, a renter, and his home was not burnt down. You can actually see it. It's actually just right off to the side here. So this is literally where it kind of ended. And his house is here, but in his home, it's about 2 inches of ash covered on all of his belongings. And so he has 3 little kids, and he shared his experience with us before we started to help. And he shared how one of the toughest experiences that he had was they had to evacuate, obviously. And they couldn't go back to their home because all that stuff was covered in ash and it's not usable. So everything's, being thrown away. But the thing that he remembers most is the next day was the first day of school for his kids. And he remembers they were staying at a friend's house, and of course, school, nothing like that was impacted. So they still planned on having school as usual. But he remembers he was totally fine and, on a lot of adrenaline this entire time until he told his kids, go grab your backpacks. And the kids were like, we don't have backpacks. So obviously they were in the house. And just shared kind of his experience of what that was like. But the moment for us was realizing, my wife and I, being able to serve, being able to give back in other people's challenges, where sometimes we're moving so fast in life that we forget to help others, stop and pause and think about that charitable contribution. And that was, again, another moment that Tony was trying to give us an example of make sure that in that innovation, you think of ways to contribute towards a bigger cause. Think of ways that your family can help other people in a bigger way, and that helps you to actually grow closer together. This is one of the homes that was burnt, and then there was this whole kind of area was they're chopping down the trees and creating mulch. They put the mulch over the ash, so the ash doesn't roll down into the water, into the ocean. But just a phenomenal experience of being able to see what it's like to be able to give back and step outside of ourselves. And then the other 5 days was really about going deep into, I would call, mental frameworks, some ideas around and beliefs around relationships. And for me, why this was important for me to go to this was I didn't have a successful example of a great relationship growing up. So I knew that there were some challenges in our communication and the way that we operate as a husband and wife based off of just beliefs and things that had happened to me when I was younger, and realizing that we are completely different species. Okay. Like, her ways of thinking about things are completely different than mine. And you can tell this in our text threads, where it's like my text might be 2-word answers like, yes, I'm coming, or something simple, right? And she, when I ask her a question, it's like a whole, paragraph that I have to like scroll through and read, right? And for me, understanding maybe a new way to communicate with each other, a new language, was probably one of the most beneficial and valuable experiences. But Tony Robbins, for me, has been magnificent, not only in my business, but also just in my life. And had the chance to get some perspective from him on some things for not only my marriage, but also just how I want to approach life. And so that's what I'm going to share with you guys today. So, question. Okay. If I were an alien and arrived on Earth and asked, what is love? How would you explain it? Okay. And we're going to watch a little quick video. I'm going to ask Hunter to speed it up for time's sake, just to like 1.25. But think about that question. What is love?
We were married August 23 of 1975, and here 40 years later, we're still together. I tell her all the time that I love her.
I think you've been very fortunate.
Yes, we have been.
Find a
Yeah.
bride that would take care of me the way she has.
He's the one.
Just being with her. Just being with her. That's all I care about.
I still think you're kind of cute.
Oh, I don't know where.
I love her above anything else.
Thank you.
Commitment.
Commitment.
Commitment means a lot.
I've never had to worry about him looking at another woman or anything. He never
You just
does.
didn't catch me.
We have had some vile arguments.
Oh, we haven't done it.
Well, remember the time I was so angry at you, or you were angry at me?
But what?
I don't know about what, but I crawled into the crib and slept in my daughter's crib. I wasn't going to go to bed with him.
I love you.
Love you too. I love you, honey.
Love you too. Very much.
What goes through my mind now is a lot of tears, because I wish we had another 63 years.
And we've had,
I've got
Good
wonderful
times.
memories. When he goes, I have wonderful memories.
we've had a good life.
Dover weather, not one bit. And after I look at that picture, what we had, I just can't believe, that, wow, we made this thing.
For all the hard times, it's been so good to be with him that I can't imagine it's coming to an end.
What do you think when you see each other in these pictures?
I think what a wonderful husband I got.
What do you think, bud?
We made it.
Love and laughter is the most important thing there is in life, and don't lose it, ever.
So one of the content pieces that Tony went through was something called the Dirty Dozen. And it was categories of conflict. It says, what could screw it up? Okay. And if you look at some of those successful relationships, you start to kind of notice some ingredients that are probably important to cultivate and build in your relationship. And I think these things, a lot of it is talking about you and your partner, but you can also look at this with your kids as well, in building successful relationships with them and some of the principles that you're going to be passing on to them. So the idea is that there are actually core areas of life where people grow up differently. Like they have maybe a different relationship with their parents, or they grew up in a household that had them create different rules or beliefs around these specific topics. And a lot of it is the unspoken. So a lot of times in marriage, we don't talk about these things in enough depth to find kind of some of those differences in the beliefs, and then find also, let's create some overlapping or some shared new beliefs around these different areas. So one of them is, and I'm for time's sake not going to go deep on all of them, but I'll kind of just highlight and I'll share vulnerably some of my experiences and my wife and our differences. But one of those is money, right? So having a different belief system around money. Now, with her family, we kind of grew up in a very similar situation, but very different at the same time, because her parents were both school teachers in California. She grew up near Sacramento. And so for her household, there are 7 kids. Okay. So she shares experiences where as soon as food is on the table, like it's a free for all, it's a fight for food. And she grew up in that kind of household where there was a lot of commotion, right? A lot of kids. And so, but one of the things that her family always expressed was that money didn't really matter as long as they had each other, as long as they had family. And for me, growing up and not having money at all, and not having some of the I'll call safety that money can provide, and that caused a very different belief, is that money is very important for me, right? And so we have these different belief systems where for her, money is important, but it's not the most important thing, right? And you guys have heard me say this, that money is not the most important thing, but it is right up there with oxygen, right? That it does give us breathing room. It does give us space to focus on other things or things outside of ourselves. And so we've had kind of a mismatch and alignment on our beliefs around money, right? How much do we need? How much is important? What is it all for? And so that was one of the areas where us getting clarity around what's important to us around money was an important part. And with this as well, the question you've got to ask yourself is, where do your beliefs around money come from? Okay. And a lot of that happens through childhood, through nurture, through conditioning, through maybe even experiences in high school, through college, things like that. So disagreements over spending habits and budgeting, conflict about financial goals and priorities. That creates a lot of conflict within a relationship. Number 2 is kids and parenting. So differences in parenting styles, how kids are taught, how they're disciplined, what they're encouraged towards, right? You see this often as well with, you can see this happening when you see like just freak athletes, right? When they're starting very, very young, and you see one parent who's like just so on them about, you've got to be the best, right? You see this a lot with like Olympic athletes or people in the NFL, things like that. I just watched the documentary on David Beckham. Anybody watch that yet? That's awesome. So that's a prime example where who was the driver for most of his success soccer-wise? His mom or dad? His dad, right? And so you see this happening, and if there's not a shared communication around like, what do we want for our kids? Why is that important? That's an important area. That's where conflicts can arise. Even conflicts about whether to have children or how many to have, right? I'm seeing that happen with a personal family member right now, where when they were married 8 years ago, they wanted kids. Now the wife doesn't want kids. My family member does. And that's a conflict, right? And so having that conversation early, often is an important piece. Intimacy and attraction is another area. Time, household responsibilities, roles, and decisions. I'm going to fly through some of these so we can get to some other pieces. But I'm giving you examples of how you have to dissect these and get clear about what's important to me in these. And here's the thing is you have rules. Everybody has rules. And when those rules are broken, that's where a lot of the discontentment comes from. Now, a lot of those rules, again, have been passed on to you, and a lot of them are unconscious. Like they're rules where it's like, for example, I have a belief around money is a tool, right? And money can be used to give and support other people, but it can also be used to create a different kind of lifestyle. And so a lot of our excess revenue goes towards investments. Okay. And early on in our marriage, I called her one time. This is the year that we got married. And I called my wife and I was like, I just signed up for a coaching program and it was $35,000. Okay. Now we had the money, but a few weeks prior, I told her no to like a $300 purchase that she wanted to make. Right. So you can see that there's probably some challenges that are going to come from that. Okay. And we had a very similar conversation when I called to talk about the Tony Robbins program earlier this year in January. And she's like, let's do it all in. Because we, at this point now, have cultivated a shared belief around, she knows how much growth and impact is important to me. So she knows like there's nothing else that we can put in front of that. Of course, making sure it's not taken away from our family lifestyle. So household responsibilities, roles, and decisions. So what does that actually look like in clarifying it? So division of household responsibilities, conflict over traditional gender roles or expectations within the household. Family, in-laws, and religion. Now, Corby, you can't tell Julia I'm telling this story, so don't gossip about it. No, should be fine if I tell it. Like, this is another one for us, family and in-laws. Like, we have a very different paradigm around space and family. She grew up with 6 siblings. She's the youngest of 7. And their family did everything together. They went camping all the time. They played games all the time. Like, her family loves games. I will not play any kind of trivia games with her family anymore. My first experience, there's a game called Jackass. Have you seen that game? It's literally, you're trying to guess. It's historical figures or any kind of like trivial questions. It's kind of like Trivial Pursuit. And essentially you're moving along the board almost like Candyland. Okay. And whoever gets to the end first wins. Now, her whole family was all playing, and I didn't move one space on that board the entire time. Her dad was a history teacher. Her mom, they love traveling and exploring and things like that. And so like they knew all the answers, and I didn't even move. So I was like, I'm not playing this game with you guys anymore. Right. Now, the other challenge with that is she loves like having family over consistently. And so there was a time even earlier this year where we had family to back-to-back travels, family in town for like 3.5 weeks staying in our house. For me, I'm like, this is suffocating. I need my space, right? For her, she's like, this is the best thing ever. Let's have them move in, right? Very different belief systems and appreciation around that. And I love family. I just also need my space, right? And so that's one of those areas of conflict that can arise if there's not a upfront conversation around that. Religion is one of those as well. Friends, health and well-being, alcohol use. So dispute about lifestyle choices impacting health, such as diet and exercise. Issues related to alcohol or substance use, including addiction concerns. Safety, work and work ethic, communication meaning. So how many times have you talked with your spouse or significant other and you said something and they took it in a certain way and you're like, and they maybe got upset about it or whatever. And you're like, that's not even what I meant. Right. So the communication is important, but also understanding how that person received the communication is important. Okay. And so making sure that you're in alignment on the actual meaning behind what you're trying to communicate. Okay. It's not actually the communication that usually is the challenge, it's the meaning behind it. So what do they actually mean about this? habits, immaturity, and then arguing and fighting styles. Arguing and fighting styles is an interesting one as well for me. I am very anxious when it comes to conflict. So I'm like, let's find a resolution now. Like, I know you're upset. Let's figure this out, right? And for Julie, she is very avoidant, where she's like, I need space. Like, I need to go have 3 hours to just think through things. Then we'll come back there. We're going to be cool. But those different styles of fighting, right, have a conflict when I'm trying to pursue and she's trying to run away, right? And so just being aware of that and now saying, hey, if you need space, that's cool. Just shoot me a text. Let me know when we can have this conversation later today so that we can get to it. Because for me, I just need to know we're going to have the conversation. Like, we're going to work through that. And so understanding your different arguing and fighting styles. We don't have time for this exercise right now, but go ahead and take a picture of this. These 3 questions would be great for you to go through and do on your own time. I will explain number 3, what's your fix it forever solution? This would be a great thing to add into your business and into your life. So the fix it forever solution Tony talked about was that if there's a consistent problem, if you start recognizing patterns. So one of the big skill sets to develop in life is pattern recognition. Pattern recognition, there's 3 levels: pattern recognition, and then you've got pattern, which is pattern awareness. You've got pattern utilization. So how do I use this pattern to my advantage? Okay, a pattern, just think of that as like a habit. What is something that we don't even think about, but we do consistently? Okay. And then the 3rd level was pattern creation. You can actually create patterns purposefully to get a better result in life. One of those patterns is building fix it forever solutions. So if you see something happening consistently, you can say, what's the fix it forever solution? What is the one thing I can install that would forever fix this problem or this conflict? For example, one of the areas that Julie and I put together was having a weekly financial conversation, where it's just, let's check in for 15, 20 minutes, talk about where we're at with our goals and what we need to do over the next week to move forward closer towards that goal. And also just like, what are your beliefs around XYZ when it comes to money? And so that was one of our fix it forever solutions, is instead of waiting 6 months to say, okay, we're way off target on the budget, right? Let's have that conversation consistently. And so find the new system or rule or standard that you can install to avoid that issue from being consistently happening. Okay. Just some quick anecdotes for the Dirty Dozen. So if you show up how you did in the beginning, there won't be an end. So make them feel like they're the most important person in your life. Number 2 is recognize that there are 2 worlds merging. It's not one person taking over. So not saying I'm the more dominant force in our relationship and we're going to just do things the way I grew up or the way I believe things are. It's how can we create new shared beliefs and ways of processing in the world. Acceptance. If you're constantly trying to change your partner, what resists will persist. So part of them will always fight against it, even if they want to please you. Okay. So 3 dimensions of a relationship. Level 1 is it's all about yourself. So it's all about me. And this for sure tends to happen early on in a relationship, but also it tends to reoccur later on. If you're not innovating, if you're not marketing, what tends to happen is you start to think of me. So think about the conflicts, think about an argument that you may have had. And typically what it stems from is something that you were not getting. So it's a need that you felt like was not being met. And the second layer or dimension of love is it's all about equality. So we're going to make things equal. You do this, I'll do that, right? And so what happens, or the challenge, is that you're looking for something from that person for you to show up at your best, okay? And so that innately builds in this conflict into that relationship. And layer 3 is your needs are my needs. And think about, again, this ties right into your business as well, but this is what would allow you to build that successful relationship, is finding out how can I serve this person at the highest level possible and make their needs my needs. Okay. The 5 to thrive in a relationship. We're not going to go through this whole diagram for time, but I will just highlight this piece. So 80% of success in a relationship is about selection. How many of you believe that? Nobody? Okay. Here's the thing that Tony said, it's not what you think. Okay. 80% of success is in a relationship is about selection, but it's not who you select, it's which part of you select to bring to the table for them. So it's actually about your own internal work that you're doing to be the best version of yourself for your partner. So the state that you bring to the relationship will shape your destiny. So again, we don't have time to go through this, but this was the framework that he provided for it. So you can take a picture and we'll have a conversation about it in the future. The most important part is probably in the center here. It's the 6 human needs, understanding how that works. So at the very base level, everybody needs security. So we need to have, food, water, roof overhead, those basic needs. But then you'll find that we actually need certainty. Okay. We need certainty in our relationships and in life. And then we need uncertainty, which is kind of seems counterintuitive, but that's why most of you probably are in real estate is that you actually don't want to be at a day job where you're behind a desk doing the same exact thing for 40 years. So that's actually probably why you chose to do real estate to some extent, is you love uncertainty. You like that every day is a little bit different, right? And then you've got love and significance is the next one. And that one's a little interesting because significance, if you see that in today's world, how that shows up is with social media and the likes and the how many comments did I get on my post and all those kind of things, is a lot of people are motivated by those things. But then you have, so love and significance are 2 separate ones for clarity. So significance, then love, then you've got growth and impact. So it's a pyramid, and growth and impact are actually the most important. And so what you can say is, well, if my partner is in this moment trying to get certainty and I'm all about growth, right? There might be a miscommunication there, because if I'm in the mode to grow, I will do anything, even if it's uncertain. I will jump off the cliff if I need to. Does that make sense? And so just understanding your partner's needs and how can I make sure that we're serving both needs, not just mine. Okay. Three toxic habits. Take a picture of this one and then we'll wrap up with a quote. So 3 toxic habits is blame and punishment, shoulds and shouldn'ts. So this is a really good one. Don't should all over yourself. So embrace reality. Love what is. So rules, the shoulds and shouldn'ts, that's where the rules come in. That's where, hey, I have this rule that we don't spend this much on, let's call it, Corby, what's that garden place you guys always go to? Sun River. Okay. Yes, she's the biggest culprit. We don't spend this much money at Sun River, right? Now, if it's a shouldn't, this cannot happen, or is it, do we have a conversation about it? Like, what's the goal here, and are we on alignment on that goal? And then the third one is I or you could have done better. Okay. So everyone is doing their best that they can with the resources that they have. So if you actually approach the relationship with that belief system and then saying, how can we improve the process? You'll see things end in a way better way. And then the last part is just a quote is, don't fall in love, grow in love. Everything that falls gets broken, but everything that grows gets stronger. So I know we flew through that, but I just want to get maybe 2 or 3 ahas as we wrap up and head to lunch. Looks like while we might be waiting for lunch. Yeah, we'll send out the slides for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, 2 to 3 ahas.
So I really liked that whole idea of showing up with the unexpected, like going above and beyond what somebody would think is what you're going to do.
My aha was on the 6 human needs. I'd heard of that before, but I'd never saw it on the scale, and how imbalanced there's times if I am in a growth situation, if my partner is in a certainty situation, why that created so much conflict in our relationship. That was huge to see it in that diagram.
I like the fix it forever solution. When something's going wrong, instead of just like living in that space, find a way to fix it and do it now. I like that.
I like that you talked about how important it is to develop the skill of pattern recognition It just seems like so often in life, we feel like we're living a conscious life, that we're making conscious decisions, and yet so much of what we do is habitual and based on our thinking and background. And if we become better at recognizing patterns, we can be a lot more intentional.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you all. Have wonderful lunch and have a great week. Thank you.